Hi, campaigners. Welcome to Campaign Mode,
a gaming podcast meant for marketers to better understand the industry.
We are your hosts. I'm Sammy Barnett, head of gaming at TMA.
Morgan Bridges, account supervisor at TMA.
If you have any questions, want to reach out to collab, all of our information is down below. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
We hope you enjoy.
We are excited for today's episode. We have Alex, he's from Digiday, and we're going to talk about brands driving buzz in the media, how they can do it, how they can stand out from all the chatter already happening. So this should be a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Alex, do you want to introduce yourself and tell everybody kind of who you are, what you do, why you're the best?
Don't mind if I do. I don't know about that last bit, but happy to introduce myself. Yeah, so my name is Alexander Lee. I write for Digiday. I've been at Digiday since 2021. And historically, my main focus is gaming and esports. And so I've worked with the folks at TMA on that topic quite a bit. And it's a pleasure to be here. I switched to a new coverage topic at the beginning of 2025. And so at the moment, my coverage focus is entertainment and media, with a particular focus on content creators and their growing role within this ecosystem. So gaming is still definitely one of my multiple focus areas, but my remit has expanded quite a bit in the last few months.
Well, and it's kind of gaming has moved over into just being pure entertainment anyways, with all of the transmedia that we talked about, but crossovers into TV and movies. So that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is the week or the month of the Minecraft movie, right? It says it all.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think we would be remiss to not talk about that, right? No, I think I thought that's a good segue because there's so much chatter happening around Minecraft. You kind of see it everywhere. So everyone's talking about it. But when it comes to games, creators, just things happening in the industry, there's always so much happening. So in your opinion, or like in your history of working on this kind of stuff, what do you think sets a brand apart, like for a gaming campaign? Like how does a brand stand out in all of this chatter that's happening?
So
loaded question.
Yeah, no, it's a $1 million question. So what I'll say is, approaching this as a journalist, and so I'm imagining, a campaign crossing my inbox in the form of a PR pitch. I'm never necessarily looking for a pitch that focuses on just a specific campaign or activation. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there are really cool gaming brand activations all the time, but at this point, I've been in the space for long enough that I've sort of seen it all. And so I'm interested in pitches and campaigns that situate a brand or activation within a broader trend. Ideally, something that I'm already covering. And so ideally, if you're pitching this to me, it's something that you've already observed me cover in my past work. So one example is nowadays, I get a ton of pitches about Roblox brand activations. Everyone's always doing something in Roblox, and I always think they're cool. I'm always just a fan of more people getting involved in Roblox, and quite honestly, I think the amount of brands spending their marketing budgets in the space is still a lot lower than it probably should be. So don't get me wrong, I'm always in support, but only a few pitches that I get these days in the Roblox field really move the needle in terms of being new or noteworthy. If I'm thinking of campaigns that I had been able to cover in the past, it's, for example, Roblox campaigns or activations that involve a new category of brand. So like the first ever Roblox film studio integration or activation, or also something that takes advantage of a new piece of technology or a new feature. So last year I wrote about Walmart launching real life e-commerce inside Roblox for the first time. In general, sorry to just keep rambling on this, but I think something being a first is always helpful, no matter what. But there are limits to that too. And we can usually tell when someone is just trying to shoehorn in a first rather than, putting something in front of me that's actually new or noteworthy. I'm interested in writing about, like the first time people can buy physical sneakers inside Fortnite, which seems like it's probably going to come at some point in the near future, but not necessarily like the first time a CPG brand launches a racing game inside Roblox with an NFL athlete collaborating. Like, there's a certain limit. So yeah, that hopefully that answers that question.
I also think about like activations in Fortnite and activations in Roblox when people are like, oh, that's been done before, so we shouldn't do it. I also think about back, 10, 15 years ago, it was probably news that this brand has a social media page, but we would never have said, now no one else can go and get a social media page. Like, it's still important for brands to be, in my opinion, it's still important for brands to make those activations in Roblox or do those activations in Fortnite. It's just understanding that is probably not going to earn you buzz, but it's still just as important. I think that's the big qualifiers. Like,
Yeah, it's authenticity with the players. Kind of what you're saying. I think it's authenticity with the players and the gamers versus authenticity in the media. So, like, yes, you should still absolutely be building these worlds and these experiences. But if you're wanting to have Alex or someone else write about it, you need an authentic
there's like a
play in of how it's innovative or how it's a first of its kind. So it's like, you can't just say, oh, we're the, first brand building this world using the color green or something like like class. It's like, okay, it's a stretch, but there needs to be that authentically fuzzy, shiny object to get interest from PR.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just to kind of riff on that a bit, I mean, to me, if anything, the fact that not every Roblox brand activation is newsworthy is actually a sign of the maturation and the growth of the medium. To the exact point that you were making, not every YouTube influencer marketing campaign is newsworthy or noteworthy, but they're generally pretty effective for the brand involved.
That kind of plays on, the innovation, the newness aspect, but outside of that, I think it's really easy for gaming brands to get that buzz because they kind of have a little bit more of a lever to pull in this space. But for a generic brand outside of like, there's a new aspect that they're tackling on that innovative piece that we just talked about. Outside of that, like, I think people try to stay with culture and trends that are happening, and they, try to capitalize on those kind of moments to also get their share of voice in the media. Is there anything like specific that, as a PR reporter, that you could share on kind of how to capitalize on those quick moments and trends? I think you can blink and they can be gone. So it's hard for a brand to jump in. But is there anything, advice you could give to our listeners or even to us on how to capitalize on those quick moments and timing?
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I think there are two answers that I would say to this. The first is that, well, you're totally right that a campaign, an activation, and certainly the way that you pitch that to a reporter should be newsworthy and it should touch on some kind of timely trend or current event story. Not all of these things are flashes in the pan. There are certainly cases where, for example, I don't know if you guys or anyone listening remembers at the beginning of the year, there was a bit of a controversy around the company Honey and its sponsorship of certain YouTubers and content creators. That was something that, yes, that was a moment in time, and YouTubers have short memories. And after a couple of weeks, that controversy was totally gone. And so I did write something about that, and I was looking to move on it ASAP. And if anyone wanted to pitch me on it, there was probably a 1 or 2 day window where that pitch would be relevant to what I'm currently looking into. But on the other hand, some of these time-sensitive stories or macro trends are happening for quite some time. The Trump tariffs and the TikTok ban are two ongoing stories that are really relevant to my coverage that have just been, it seems impossible to get away from this entire year. And then for us at Digiday, there's for the last 2 years or so, there's been this macro story about Google Chrome announcing that it was going to deprecate third-party cookies on the browser, which I know is like really yawn-inducing niche stuff, but for ad world, for what I write about, we're so interested in that. Now, there was news earlier this year, I believe, that Google is not actually deprecating the cookie. And so our many months of ongoing coverage of this macro trend sort of went to the wayside a little bit, but that doesn't mean that some smart PR people didn't get some great pitches in during those 2 years. And so it's definitely worth keeping an eye on those macro trends as well. And I don't think it's a huge loss if you miss out on the smaller flash in the pan story, as long as you are able to, I guess, hitch your cart to one of those horses.
Authentically.
Yeah.
The controversy aspect, there is, you worked on something, there's some controversy tied to it. I think that's a hot topic for this industry and for brands too. I think, we see in our years working in this industry, we probably have both seen a lot of cool things. You've probably gotten to write about a lot of cool things too. But then there's things that don't go so well, right? There is this thing, brands can miss the mark. And I think their first reaction is to pull away, just disassociate from it. It'll go away, it'll die down. And I'm curious for your opinion on that. And that, is that the right move? Should you just forget it ever happened, ignore it, move on to the next thing? Or is there a tactic that you've seen done well, or that you could, you would want to implement as a brand to kind of come away from that controversy or whatever that negative aspect is?
Okay, a few thoughts on this as well. So first, I'll get to my advice, and then I have a sort of macro take in answer to this. So apologies in advance for that. But the advice I would say is, do not pull away. The best thing you can do is to talk to us. Talk to the press. And by the way, literally talk to the press. Do not go on Twitter and make a video apology or attempt to negotiate the situation with one of your executives as a talking head. I actually think that is worse. I think it shows that it shows that a brand is being thoughtful and that it truly wants to engage meaningfully with the criticisms it's facing when it goes to the press and actually has those conversations with us. And so I know, this, I don't know, maybe this isn't something I should admit in a podcast, but also, just on a personal level, I am more likely to empathize with someone or be considerate of their view if they talk to me and they're real people and they're friendly and polite and show themselves being worthy of empathy. Now, at the end of the day, I am not the moral arbiter of anything. And if my moral judgment of something comes through in a story I'm writing, that is a failure on my part. But I can say on a personal level, I'm just more likely to hear someone out if they come to me and I don't have to chase them down and force them to speak to me. And so that my number one piece of advice is own it. Talk to the press. It's never going to be as bad as you think. Now, with that in mind, I have great news for brands and PR people in general, which is that controversy doesn't matter anymore, or at least not nearly as much as it used to. Something I've written about quite a bit, and particularly through the lens of my current beat covering content creators, is that a lot of previous kind of standards or precepts that a lot of people have held about brand safety just don't really apply anymore. This is particularly true. Oh, sorry to interrupt.
I'm agreeing with you. Sorry, I'm not.
Yeah, girl.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Particularly when it comes to online content creators, controversy is very different than the way it works for celebrities in the past.
On stream you think about the amount of time that you're putting yourself out there. There's just zero way that you can be totally perfect, have no back controversies at all, because how could you not?
Then you're not being authentic. I busted up times, but you're not being your true self.
Well, and we try to. That's one thing that when we work with brands is trying to help them understand is when you're talking to a celebrity, they have a PR person, they have a team that's behind them. Hey, you need to act this way. You do these things. Streamers are on video in their bedroom talking about things for hours straight.
Yeah,
there's just no world in which somebody doesn't slip up or say something or whatever. So I think that reminded me when you're saying there is such a difference between streamers and celebrities these days that we're not really going to ever find somebody who has that perfect background anymore.
Exactly. And on top of that, I think it goes exactly to what you were saying, Sammy, about authenticity. Audience members see creators and particularly live streamers, but I think any sort of prominent content creator as being like them. They view these people aspirationally. I could do this someday. You watch someone like Kai Cenat. I mean, it's very much like he plays it up. I'm just one of you. I'm the one who happened to succeed. You could be this big as well. And I know from personal experience that individual people put their hands in their mouths or their feet in their mouths all the time. I've definitely said things that I regret. I may have said something on this podcast that I'll regret in the future, but that makes them more authentic, and it actually makes them in some ways even like a more attractive prospect for brand sponsorship in some ways.
Totally. And there's brands that I think are starting to figure out that if they bring down this like corporate facade a little bit, they also are seeing, I mean, Duolingo on TikTok, for example, like there's something about this authenticity. Let's go ahead and add a check to the how many times we say that. But, there is something that like no longer is it just, okay, now creators, people want their creators to feel real. But I also think there's people behind the brands. Like there's a social media person that's not like, the CEO of whatever brand is it putting these things out. Like that's an everyday person. And so I think there's something to you coming out and being like, hey, here's where this came from. We're sorry about it. And let's do better.
Yeah, I think the most successful brands, treat themselves as one of the audience that they're trying to talk to. And I think audiences take in the information from a brand or accept brands that they feel like, hey, they're one of us, right? I relate to them. Like if they mess up, that's fine. I mess up too. Like I don't think anyone is expecting a brand to be perfect. I think they just want them to feel real.
Yeah.
And especially with the gaming audience, they just want to be heard. They want to be understood and they want to be heard, right? So if you mess up as a brand, I think it is, you come out, say something like acknowledge it, make a joke out of it. I think the best brands that are the ones that make fun of themselves, honestly. But I think then the audience feels understood. They feel heard. They feel like, okay, cool, we can move on. You get it. We get it. Let's wash our hands of this.
Absolutely. I think there's a strong argument to be said that in this day and age, controversy is almost expected. What matters, what moves the needle, is what the brand does after, how it responds to its community.
That's a perfect little soundbite right there. All right, I have to ask because I'm curious. You've worked in gaming news coverage for quite some time. What is something you worked on that got a ton of buzz from a brand who's not endemic to the space? Like, was there somebody or something, some campaign that did something so right, like you couldn't cover it enough, or people were crazy about it, and you were kind of like, whoa, I'm surprised people were so interested in this. And I'm kind of asking you that. You don't have to come up with one.
Or even you as a fan.
Yeah, or as a fan, like, hey, I really liked that.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question. Let me think about that for a second. I've written about I've run the gamut of fun ways that brands can integrate into different spaces, and so I want to preface this by saying I'm highlighting one example that comes to mind, but there are a lot of great examples of this. But one Roblox campaign that I actually did cover as part of a broader story on Roblox creators this year that ended up getting a surprising amount of traffic from us was H&R Block's campaign in Roblox. H&R Block did an integration into Roblox in which they basically framed as you can do your taxes in Roblox. And they had some pretty impressive numbers in terms of the volume of people who actually did this. I think this is really interesting because this is that sort of new and noteworthy thing that I forget if I actually said this before, but I'm interested in things that are new and then also move the needle for players themselves. It's a useful and novel experience for them. And so I think that is a fantastic example. And it apparently actually resonated really well, both with Roblox users and with our readers. Just an example that comes to mind.
Yes, but that is funny that you say that because there are so many things we do today, do your taxes, update your driver's adult things, do your taxes, update your driver's license. Like, I'm sure nobody ever thought, oh my gosh, we're going to be doing these things in like a virtual space ever. But it just takes that one company, like,
Or gaming space.
Like, yeah, it just takes the one company to be like, oh crap, like, I guess people are going to be doing their taxes. So we should probably change that rule that we have, because we had it there thinking this would never happen. So that's really funny. I've seen a couple of things that H&R Block has done that have been really creative. So that's a great kind of way in of, and you're talking about Roblox again, which is
like just the headline of do your taxes in Roblox. Like, that will get some attention. Smart thinking. I love it. I think to piggyback on what you're saying too, like, there was another brand, tax related, I'm not even gonna drop name, that did something in Roblox. I don't think it was as buzzy, but just kind of saying like all the adult things that we're having to do that we were not taught in school. They created I think it was in Roblox too, a world in Roblox. Oh my gosh, my frog in my throat. Excuse. They created a world in Roblox where they basically were teaching them about investments. And so like I think it was like around pancakes, and it was a tycoon style game. You can fill in the blanks with what brand did it. But they're basically like the mechanics of the game was teaching you how to do investments and like also like save your money, but like in a very fun way. So I think not only is it buzzy to do that kind of stuff and like say, hey, you can do your taxes in a video game, it's also like teaching the audience in an environment that they're used to going to and in a fun and unique way. So I think I'm going to clip what you said for one of our shorts of you're interested in things that are good for the brand, but also good for the audience, because that is super important. So I think not having to push things too hard.
I accept this clip.
I could talk to you all day, every day. I've had the pleasure of getting to talk to you a ton, so that's amazing. But we are going to probably wrap up this episode, but I do want to leave with one piece of advice, or even if you have a question for us, we can go there first. But like one thing that a brand can do to drive buzz, I think, what's your like biggest thing, your biggest piece of advice? It could be 2 words, you can whatever, but I think just leaving us with a little Alex wisdom before we go.
Find a sub community, a niche that desperately wants to be served and will welcome you in with open arms when you do reach them, because those people will become your most loyal supporters, and they also exist in other communities. Example that comes to mind, a couple of years ago, Chipotle sponsored the big fighting game tournament that happens every year, Evolution Championship Series. And previously, I mean, to be honest, this tournament had really struggled to find big sponsors, especially non-endemic sponsors who weren't from the gaming space. And so when Chipotle came in, firing, with on all cylinders, giving away free burritos, and hosting mini tournaments and stuff, people were obsessed with it. They viewed it as the endorsement of their community that they always wanted. I think people understand to some extent why brands sponsor communities, and so they felt like it was saying, okay, we are worth it enough for you to try to reach. And so there's this video of people chanting Chipotle, Chipotle in the arena on the final day of the tournament. And I mean, that you can't really beat that level of organic fandom and enjoyment. So that's just one example, but yeah, find a group of people like the fighting game community, or even a smaller game community that has never had a game, brand activate inside their title of choice, that would really welcome a brand to being involved and view it as actually an endorsement or like a sign that they finally made it. That's what I would say.
Because that's great feedback too, because you think a lot of brands, if they don't know much about the gaming space, they would think immediately, okay, I need to go broad so that I can reach more people. But what you're kind of saying is it's almost more as important or more important to like find a niche community and try to talk to them there. So that was great. I love that.
And again, I mean, the people in that community, they're part of other communities as well. And so they spread that sentiment far and wide.
I love that. Great example.
Then you're like not having to go broad with your language or broad with what you're saying. You can kind of make it more pinpointed or that's targeted and more meaningful too. So great advice, Alex. You're always amazing. Is there anything else you want to say to us or our audience? Go. Yeah, and you
Normally, this is where I'd be like, follow me on Twitter, but I don't use Twitter anymore. I consciously decided to stop posting on there in January because it's so much worse now. So read my articles on Digiday.
Go read your articles. Perfect.
Yes, please. That's my plug. And thank you guys for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, and you were amazing. Every other guest has a lot of some big shoes to fill.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Alex, so much for joining us.
Yeah. We will talk soon. And thanks, Morgan.
See you next time.
Pleasure, guys. See you next time.
High five to you.
High five.